Without more ado, Minister, you're very welcome, and we look forward to what you have to say.
Thank you very much, Sir David. Dear guests, it's a great honor to be here with you at the Royal United Services Institute this morning to talk about European security. And to start off, I would like to briefly share Sweden's perspective on the current situation, with a focus on why Sweden decided to join NATO and how we hope to contribute to the alliance and stand up to the threats we face today, with an emphasis on Russia's war of aggression against Ukraine. Over 200 years ago, about 2 decades before RUSI was founded, the Swedish king at that time, Carl XIV Johan, laid down the foundations for Sweden's policy of neutrality and non-alignment. And this has been the basis of our foreign and security policy for generations. On the 7th of March this year, this era effectively came to a close when we became the 32nd member of NATO. Some might perceive this to be a swift transition, but becoming a NATO member has been a natural and final step of a journey that Sweden has been on over recent decades. We have become an increasingly close partner of the alliance since Sweden joined the Partnership for Peace in 1994. The following year, we acceded to the EU, leaving our policy of neutrality behind. And the same year, for the first time, Swedish troops served under NATO command in Bosnia and Herzegovina. And since then, we have participated in major NATO peace support operations in Kosovo, in Afghanistan, in Libya. We have built interoperability for our armed forces and exchanged assessments on the Baltic Sea region. Sweden's NATO accession is the culmination of a long farewell to the policy of neutrality and non-alignment. Sweden has changed, and so too has the world around us. To me, it feels like though we have finally come home. The moment Sweden's instrument of ratification was handed over to US Secretary of State Blinken in Washington marked a new beginning, a future for Sweden as a member of a North Atlantic Treaty, as an ally. Although Sweden's cooperation with NATO started decades earlier, Sweden's membership of NATO is a direct result of Russia's illegal, unprovoked and indefensible war of aggression in Ukraine, as well as Russia's attempts to deny every state's rights to independently make its own security policy choices. Russia's full-scale invasion was an irreversible turning point for Swedish, European and global security. Russia's objective with its war of aggression is to recreate an empire and violently overturn the European security order to replace right with brutal might. Russia has for a long time demonstrated its willingness to use military means for political objectives. Russia is willing to accept high risks, higher than we have ever seen before, and to accept great losses. Step by step, it has withdrawn from agreements of arms control and confidence-building measures, both conventional and nuclear. We must plan and prepare for a prolonged confrontation with Russia. We must counter Russia's expansion of power by constraining its influence, its freedom of action, and ultimately its ability to do harm. At the heart of our efforts is our firm commitment to stand up for Ukraine's freedom and sovereignty. This is and will remain the top priority for Sweden's foreign policy. Ukrainian soldiers are not only fighting for their own security, their sovereignty, their territorial integrity, and their freedom. They are also fighting for our security and our values. And Russia's war of aggression is a flagrant violation of international law and the UN Charter, and those responsible must be held accountable. The outcome of the war will shape Ukraine and Russia, but also Europe for decades to come. No one wants peace more than Ukraine, whose people are suffering the direct consequences of Russia's brutal aggression. But peace at any cost would only invite further aggression. It is up to Ukraine, and Ukraine only, to decide if and when the moment is right to negotiate. And in this regard, Sweden welcomes that President Zelensky's peace formula is engaging a growing number of international partners, and we fully support Ukraine's ongoing intense diplomatic efforts towards a comprehensive, just and sustainable peace based on international law and principles of sovereignty and territorial integrity. And let us not forget that Russia could end the war at any time by simply withdrawing its troops, but it chooses not to. Some argue that supporting Ukraine is costly. Let me be very clear. Not doing so would incur a far greater cost. Our greatest responsibility today is therefore to provide Ukraine with all the political, financial, and military support necessary. The United Kingdom and Sweden are amongst the most prominent donors, and Sweden will do what is needed to provide as much support as possible. We need both endurance and maintain a strong sense of urgency. Sweden works closely with the UK, from the training of soldiers to providing artillery, and I commend the UK's solid and long-term support to Ukraine, politically, financially, and militarily. The challenges to European security are great, but I'm encouraged by the fact that Sweden is safer in NATO, and NATO will be stronger with Sweden as an ally. Unity, solidarity, and cohesion will be the guiding lights for Sweden as a NATO member. To safeguard this unity is to safeguard the strength of the alliance. Within NATO, Sweden will stand for fair burden sharing. Sweden's defense spending will exceed 2% of GDP this year, and this should be considered a minimum level. We Europeans need to take greater responsibility in transatlantic relations, thereby creating a stronger Europe in NATO. Sweden's defense industry is an important asset and will contribute to NATO. It is also an area where cooperation with the UK is strong, and we have set out to substantially strengthen our joint defense industry collaboration to ensure that NATO and its partners continue to generate a strategic advantage. And this includes defense innovation in vital strategic areas such as space and underwater technology, cyber, and security. Sweden is joining NATO at a time when emerging technologies are at the core of geopolitical competition and play an important role in the defense of Ukraine. We want to contribute towards maintaining NATO's technological edge and countering threats in the cyber domain. Sweden's strategic assets include an advanced private sector, not least in telecommunications, a strong defense industry, and a significant natural space capability. Sweden and Finland will also enable an increase of NATO's operational depth and bring the North Atlantic, High North, and Baltic Sea regions more closely together. Sweden's geography and military assets significantly strengthen the alliance's ability to carry out operations in Northern Europe. Sweden believes a strong transatlantic link is indispensable for Europe's security, and it is fundamental that we maintain and reinforce relations with the United States, something that Lord Cameron and I argued for in a joint op-ed on foreign policy 2 weeks ago. Sweden will contribute to the security of NATO as a whole, in accordance with the Alliance's 360-degree approach, and act resolutely and in a spirit of solidarity and in the fight against terrorism. Our broad geographical commitment extends to NATO's engagement with global partners, not least in the Indo-Pacific region. In perilous times like this, you need good friends. And over the last couple of years, the bilateral cooperation between Sweden and the UK has deepened significantly. In 2022, we signed a political declaration of solidarity, and last autumn, Prime Minister Sunak visited the Swedish island of Gotland, and together with Swedish Prime Minister Kristersson signed a bilateral strategic partnership to reinforce cooperation on foreign policy, security and defense, energy and climate, research and trade. The cooperation on security and defense, already advanced through the Joint Expeditionary Force, will be further enhanced as Sweden is now a member of NATO. The UK has been an indispensable and supportive partner in the Swedish application process, something we will not forget. Now I come to the end, and I look forward to hearing your perspectives on the state of European security and how the UK and Sweden can face these challenges together, today and tomorrow. I would, of course, also be happy to answer any questions you may have. Thank you very much.